for the Planet of the Apes. So War on the Planet of the Apes, I'm going to be a little vague on this film just because I think it's best to go in it without knowing anything. It'll really enhance your experience. So War on the Planet of the Apes, it's been a few years since Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Caesar and his apes are living out in the woods. They're doing alright, but they're starting to live in fear because an army of humans is starting to corner on their territory. This human army is led by Woody Harrelson, and he's the colonel, and he's sending out an attack for Caesar. Eventually, some sort of attack does happen, and thus leading to the war. That's all I'll pretty much say without giving any spoilers to you guys. This is a spoiler-free review. I'm just going to tell you what I liked about the film, what I didn't like, hit you with a rating system just like this one, breaking down the elements of the film and giving you a final ranking. Before going into the review, just ignore this background. I'm starting to move into a new place, so it's going to be a little wonky until I figure out what I want to do. On to the review. This movie is intense. This movie is by far the most intense film I have seen of 2017. This is a must-see if you are a fan of these films, and even if you are not a fan of these films, you need to start watching the two of them and get your butt in the theater for July 14th. Straight into the positives for this film, the motion capture has been almost perfected for this film. There will literally be times in the film where you will not believe this is computer generated. You want to believe this is an actual ape standing in front of the camera. The funny thing is, the movie knows how good the animation is because all throughout the film, you'll get a lot of uncomfortable close-ups of monkey face. And while it is a little uncomfortable to have an ape cover an entire movie screen, it makes for some powerful acting. Andy Serkis, we all know by far, from Rise to Dawn to now in War of the Planet of the Apes, he is amazing when it comes to motion capture. 100% of his acting is getting through on this character Caesar. And in this film, we no longer have a young, powerful Caesar. This is an old, tired, worn out Caesar. His number one priority remains to take care of his apes and fight for his people, and it's starting to become a little difficult for him because of age and loss of morality. Caesar in this film is battling between the ideals of his old enemy Kobo for reasons I don't want to get too much into, but he starts to build a hate in his heart. Expanding on that a little more later, continuing on with the acting of the film, not just Caesar and Andy Serkis, all the other apes and actors with their motion capture were handled well. A lot of the apes have to communicate through sign language, which makes facial expression very important throughout this film. Because it's one thing to read a line and put your own emotion, it's another to read a line and read the face of what's going on in that ape. Because a lot of the times it is Caesar talking, all the other apes are using sign language, so you're gonna have to read a bit of dialogue. And if the acting wasn't portrayed well throughout the film, it would have sort of crumbled some of the more intense moments. But luckily that did not happen. Every moment was really breathtaking. You know when these chimps are in fear, you know when they're angry, you know when they're about to do something, you know when they're about to tell a joke. Another positive for the film is a thing I love about this franchise. It seems like every movie since Rise of the Planet of the Apes just gets better and better. And while I do believe this film is amazing, I will say the plot of this film and the plot from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes are about neck and neck. I'm still sitting on a few hours of wondering, is this film better than the last one? And I can't say just of yet. But still, to compare it to the last film is still a huge compliment that you were able to bring that level of plot and intensity into the next one is a big positive. What the last film did well is having you struggle between, do I like the apes or do I like the humans? Whose story is more right? In this film, it's a little bit obvious whose side you're obviously on. It is more lean towards the apes, but it still manages to make the human characters understanding. You don't really like them, but you understand where they're coming from and why they're taking such harsh actions on these apes. But after the second one, this is no longer a need to balance out the film to wonder whose side you belong on. We know whose point of view we're on. We're on Caesar's side and we want them to succeed. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I know the title says War for the Planet of the Apes. There is really no war going on in this film. This film is more of a Caesar-centered story. I would compare it more to the Odyssey, where Caesar is traveling and finding his journey. Don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of action in the film and there is some sort of battle sequence, but it is not a full-out war. I would say 10% of the movie is a war and the rest of it is Caesar finding his journey. The movie plays on the themes of revenge and how other characters handle what revenge does to them. The Colonel in this film is acting on revenge, Caesar is acting on revenge, and a lot of other apes along the way are acting on revenge. The movie does such a great job of carrying out those themes, seeing what different actions they take and the consequences those actions have. It's just compelling to watch from beginning to end. I did not find myself bored at all. It is a slow-paced film, but it is so rich in its pacing that you do not mind that slow pacing at all. You almost don't want this film to end. I have nothing but high praises for this film. I really enjoyed it. I liked Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I loved Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and now I'm obsessed with War for the Planet of the Apes. Before this film started, I remember reading back a few years that there was an article saying that they had plans for a lot more films, and I was excited about that, and then I started reading that this would probably be the final one. I was a little upset with that because I thought these films were amazing, but after watching this one and seeing how the trilogy ends, I think it's perfect, and I don't think it needs to continue on. And I think a lot of you will feel the same way, thinking, I want more, but I'm fine if it ends this way. Now, a film that got me this hyped up, I couldn't find really too many things that I didn't enjoy, but I will mention a few things that I think other people might not find that pleasant about the film. So one obviously being that it is titled as War for the Planet of the Apes, and there's really not a war going on. It's mostly a revenge story. There is a battle sequence, but it's not in the type of way that you would think. I feel some might leave disappointed on that part, expecting a big action film, when really it's more of a character study with a compelling story with some action elements. So just be warned about that. And then the last two things, there are two characters added to this film that weren't in the previous movies. One is a little girl. You might have seen her in the posters or maybe in some of the trailers. Now, every character in this film is pretty vital. Even her character is vital, but I don't think her character was absolutely necessary. I think her character's just purpose was to humanize Caesar because he was starting to do some pretty awful things. And her character sometimes slowed the film down, but towards the end, I did enjoy her character and I found her purpose. But I think some will see her as a roadblock to our main story. And finally, there's another ape in this film that some might call the Jar Jar Binks, but he is never to that level of annoyingness. He is more of the comedic relief, because this film is a little dark, and if this character was not in it, it would have just been a really dark turn for Planet of the Apes. He doesn't have a clear name, but throughout the film he calls himself Bad Ape, and again, for reasons I don't want to explain why, the movie will definitely tell you why, but that was just his name throughout the film, and he's funny. He's a nice little old monkey who's just survived, so I just could see some people not liking that because his main purpose is to make the audience laugh, and he does his job great, and I could see some people being annoyed by it, but he did not annoy me. I was more bothered by the little girl character than I was by his character. If anything, I really liked his character. But those negatives aside, I still really much enjoyed War for the Planet of the Apes. What a perfect way to end the trilogy. I'm so sad that it's over, and if they tend to reboot it or somehow continue the story in the near future, I would be a little interested. Only if Matt Reeves is involved in somehow, because Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was amazing, War for the Planet of the Apes was amazing. I have full faith in him to handle the Batman film. So for action in the film, I'm going to give it 3 stars. Like I said, it is titled War for the Planet of the Apes, but there is not that much action as you would expect from a title like that. Still, when the action did happen, it was pretty cool. Comedy in the film, I'm going to give 2 stars. That all comes from Bad Ape, that character I was telling you about. Hopefully he doesn't come off too annoying, but I really enjoyed his character and he made me laugh. Drama in the film, I'm definitely going to give 4.5 stars to. It was really intense. The symbolism in the film was amazing. Even at times hard to watch and maintain what was going on screen. Horror in the film, I'm going to give 0.5 star just because if you take a kid and you have monkeys bleeding, I do think they would be a little traumatized. And suspense in the film, I'm definitely going to give 4 stars because it did a great job of building suspense, making you wonder how were these apes going to survive, how was they going to get out of this situation. Just a great job. Wasn't predictable at all. Casual fans, I'm going to give an A+. Cinephiles, I'm going to give an A+. Critically, I'm going to give it an A-. War for the Planet of the Apes gets the 3C film guarantee. So that's just my opinion for the film, guys. Thank you so much for watching my review. Hopefully you get around to watching those 2 films and having your butt in the theater July 14th. Let me know your opinions of the film if you got around to see it. What do you hope to see? What are you not happy about it? I'm always curious to know your guys' thoughts. And if you have any suggestions for what I should do with this wall, please let me know. I'll take them into consideration. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.